Let's check what's new in the CFL world here. Johnny Manziel traded from Hamilton Tiger Cats to Montreal Alouettes? What? Wow, really? Cue the legend card as I need to digest this. Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Brett Hornby here. Man, I'm just getting over the shock about the Johnny Manziel trade here. I mean, I'm a CFL fan. The Calgary Stampeders are my team, but I still feel that I have to cover this huge trade that occurred recently involving Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel. All the hype that this guy is brought to the CFL. And the funny thing is, he has not played a meaningful down in the CFL yet in the regular season. I mean, most sports fans know about the Johnny Football story. He played his college football at Texas A&M and got drafted in 2014, I believe 22nd overall by the Cleveland Browns, and apparently he didn't really want to play in the northern climates, and he did a lot of partying, and apparently had a domestic assault charge and didn't take his career seriously enough. And eventually he bumped down the depth chart, and if you're bumping down the depth chart in Cleveland in the NFL, especially the last couple of years, you're definitely not that doing too well if the Cleveland Browns are bumping you down. And eventually he found his way out of the NFL. I mean, he had a prolific college career. He did win the Heisman Trophy in 2012, and then this past year he was trying to get back in the NFL, and eventually he was looking up north here in Canada, and he had a tryout, workout with it actually worked out with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and even spent some time working out with the Montreal Alouettes. But I mean, he eventually had to get approval. He had a meeting with the commissioner, Randy Abrogi, to get approval, and then eventually he gave him approval that he'll approve a Johnny Manziel contract if he did join the CFL, but he kept trying to get back in the NFL, played some spring league, and then eventually he succumbed to signing with the Hamilton Tiger Cats just ahead of training camp of the 2018 CFL season. And excuse me, and actually in pre-season he actually looked all right. I mean, coming into camp, Jamaal was slated as the #1 quarterback, and June Jones, the head coach of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, said Jamaal is my guy, and Johnny had to earn his spot like any other football player, and eventually he was the backup to aforementioned Johnny Manziel, and here we are after 6 weeks in the CFL. The Hamilton Tiger Cats traded Johnny Manziel to the Montreal Alouettes. I'm going to say this trade was more Montreal was desperate, as they're struggling out of the gate right now, and looking to maybe kickstart or save the season and maybe bring some buzz. I mean, Johnny Manziel has not played, as I mentioned, a meaningful down in the CFL. I mean, Jamaal Manziel just recently tied a CFL record for 9 consecutive 300-yard games, and it's pretty good if you're a quarterback in the CFL. He tied Sam Etcheverry, who did that feat in the 1950s, and Ken Austin did that feat in the 1990s. And then we had guys like Doug Flutie and Anthony Calvillo and Ricky Ray. They have not had 9 games of throwing for 300 yards plus. But still, I say this trade is pretty shocking, considering Johnny was trying to be a good teammate, and haven't heard any issues with him in Hamilton, and just buying his time and learning the game and learning the system. And then suddenly the Montreal Alouettes came to Hamilton, and I just feel this trade, Hamilton did really well considering that it's an unknown commodity in the CFL at this point. I mean, how the trade broke down is that Johnny Manziel with offensive tackle Tony Washington and offensive guard Landon, all from Hamilton, are off to Montreal. In exchange, the Hamilton Tiger Cats received defensive tackle Jamaal Westerman, wide receiver Chris Williams, and two first-round picks in 2020 and 2021. It was interesting with the rumors that was going on. I was following on Facebook and Twitter that apparently these two teams were in talks about a Johnny Manziel trade. You have to speculate what are the pieces involved. I mean, the Montreal Alouettes don't have a first or a second in the 2019 entry draft. Kind of sounds familiar about another team that had that predicament, but I mean, the Montreal Alouettes, they gave up a first in next year's draft and the supplemental draft and drafted defensive player Johnstone, and then it was a draft day trade that traded picks and players in the second round in the 2019 draft. So I just feel that Hamilton, I mean, I think their defense is going to be even better with Jamaal Westerman joining Ted Laurent and Justin Capicotti, and he's also another national, so that's a big ratio breaker. Interesting that Chris Williams is going back to Hamilton. I mean, he's one heck of a player. He definitely showed his stuff in Hamilton his early part of his career when he first broke in after trying out in the NFL, and then he was trying to break out of his contract to try his luck back in the NFL, and eventually he held out because the league ruled that he had to honor his contract, and then eventually he signed with the Ottawa Redblacks, and he had an amazing start in 2016 and won the Grey Cup with Ottawa in 2016, and then as a free agent he signed a 2-year deal with the BC Lions, had a down season like many other players of the Lions last year, and then he got a season, went to Montreal and had a solid start, but he was hurt the last game, and then now Chris Williams is going back to Hamilton, and if they can forgive the past there, I mean, he was definitely going to fit in nicely in the return game with and the receiving core, you know, Terrence Tolliver, Brandon Banks, just to name a few. Luke Tasker, yeah. So that's Chris Williams, and then the pieces that are going Montreal's way, actually as a Stampeder fan, Tony Washington actually started his CFL career with the Calgary Stampeders, but he's definitely been around. I mean, he's a 6'7" offensive tackle. I mean, he's played for Calgary, and he actually won 2 Grey Cups in his career with Toronto in 2012 and Edmonton in 2015. So he definitely has experience of saying he was on the offensive line for guys like Henry Burris and Ricky Ray, Mike Riley, and now briefly with Jeremiah Mazzoli, recently with Hamilton, and now you could say he was on the guard for Johnny football too. Yeah, we'll see how that works out, but the only problem that I would have with Tony Washington is, I mean, he has the perfect size. He's 6'7" and 330. That's size that you would want for an offensive lineman, but he does have a tendency to take, offensive line penalties like holding, and that's probably part of the reason why he's been expendable and all over the place. And he also, if you read his history, he's actually a sex offender. Apparently he if I looked on Wikipedia, that apparently he got in trouble got charged with sexual assault as had sex with his sister, and he was 16 at the time and had to register as a sex offender, but he's been a great citizen in the CFL. I mean, he started with the Calgary Stampeders in 2011, and he's just been all over the CFL and various offensive lines. And then Landon, he's another Canadian who is a 6-year veteran who till now has played all of his career with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He went to school in Manitoba, which is another national, which usually it's how teams like to build in the CFL, have their nationals on the offensive line, but I'm going to say that here's Johnny Manziel is going to have a couple teammates that he's familiar with coming into Montreal. And then the other piece of this too is that he played at Texas A&M at his college, but he was a redshirt. But he was a redshirt in his first season when Mike Sherman, who's now the head coach of the Montreal Alouettes, is coaching there right now. But time will tell how soon he would be the starter. But Montreal is definitely desperate, and they've definitely had a quarterback carousel since Anthony Calvillo, the all-time leading passer, is retired. And I think if I read right, or from all their various articles, that Montreal Alouettes said that they've started 14 different quarterbacks. So Johnny Manziel would be number 15 since 2014. I mean, that's only a couple years, considering when you look at my Calgary Stampeders that we've only started a few different quarterbacks, including Bo Levi Mitchell, who has been one of the top quarterbacks in the league, and it almost seems unfair that we were able to pick him up and sign him and develop his way through the system. But I think the problem with the Alouettes is that they haven't committed to a full rebuild. But I'm going to say this is a good trade for both sides. I mean, Hamilton, going back to what I said at the beginning there, I said did really well for an unproven commodity. And then on Montreal's side, this is definitely a high risk, high reward. I mean, if this trade doesn't work out, I mean, this is definitely the last leg for Kavis Reed, the general manager, because he's been in charge for the last couple of years in Montreal, and it seems like all the decisions he's made the last couple of years has backfired or hasn't worked out, including being head coach after he let Jacques Chapdelaine go and didn't win a game at all. And then, I mean, some NFL coaches who've never been in the CFL work out, but it's still too early to tell if this Mike Sherman thing is working out in Montreal. But despite them being 1-4 right now, the East is not as strong. That if Johnny Manziel works out in Montreal, this trade could pay off big time. But of course, also the unknown is what's happened with the first round picks. But I mean, everyone's saying that this is a good trade for both sides. I mean, I think I look at this as that Montreal approached Hamilton, and Hamilton just couldn't refuse what was offered. I mean, I feel it's a pretty good deal for Hamilton. I mean, that we'll see. I mean, time will tell. It's what's interesting with these kinds of transactions. But if Johnny Manziel can stay away from the nightlife in Montreal, which that's going to be a challenge because Montreal is definitely known for that. That's where he got in trouble in the past in the NFL, and buckle down and more pick up on the game and learn the schemes. He can maybe be a solid quarterback. It's still hard to say if he'll ever get back in the NFL. I mean, he's definitely going to have to really impress and light the league on fire like Doug Flutie did. But Flutie was kind of cast off because of his size, but Johnny is just all of his off-field antics and the fact that he definitely didn't perform well with Cleveland the first time. I know his 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he had a 2-6 record when I looked. That's not really that impressive, and he was playing for Cleveland. But anyway, I mean, I just felt like I had to make a video and give my take on this Johnny Manziel trade, which it's definitely been the biggest story in the CFL. Is he going to come here? Then he signed here, and now this trade, and yet he hasn't made a meaningful snap in the regular season yet. But if you enjoy everything I do on my channel, just hit like and subscribe. I mostly cover Calgary sports and entertainment teams, and I like to capture musical acts and that, and moments at sporting events that I go to. But occasionally, if there's a big sports story I just have to jump in front of the camera for, I'll do that. So if you enjoy this, hit like, subscribe as I mentioned, and I'll see you at the next video.